Wichita City Council giving the police department the green light to apply for a federal grant.
So this would connect current school safety technology used by Wichita Public Schools to WPD's real-time information center, potentially creating faster police response times if there ever were to be an active shooter situation. But as Cale Chapman explains, some people did raise concerns during today's council meeting about the increased surveillance by police.
Rising concerns from people here in Wichita as WPD pursues a federal grant to implement new security technology in Wichita Public Schools. The technology would allow officers access to images and information inside classrooms. If received, the grant would run for 3 years and could pay out $500,000. The city would also be required to pay a maximum of $125,000. But what the technology would actually look like is still unknown. At the city council meeting, both city leaders and Wichitans questioned how this technology would be used by the school district, with one council member pointing out the 2024 DOJ case that found Wichita Public Schools has a history of racial discrimination when disciplining black students.
I have many constituents in my district who are extremely concerned about not just over policing, but the targeting of black and brown children given the DOJ case that has come out of 259. I think that is a fair concern.
DOJ pointed out that black students were significantly referred to the police department more so than any other students, disproportionately. And so again, we want to make sure that we are not making it easier for, once again, black kids, black students to be signaled out.
WPD did not take questions after the vote. They say they are working on a standard operating procedure for the technology and working on what to do if it would be abused. In Wichita, I'm Cale Chapman, 12 News.